Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jessica Smith. I am a homeschooling mom of 4 boys, a homeschool graduate myself, and a certified family life educator. And today I'm going to go do something a little different, and I'm going to chat with you about my experience being homeschooled. I am one of those weirdo homeschool adults who lived to tell about it. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to reflect on what it was like being homeschooled and talk about the pros and cons. And if you've chosen to homeschool your kids, I know you're going to have friends or family, well-meaning friends or family, that are going to bring up all their concerns about being homeschooled. And there's the what ifs and the buts. And I'm just here to tell you that it can work and it can be an amazing experience for your kids. It's not something you need to be scared about. So here is what my homeschool experience was like. But it is not going to be the same for everyone. I know there's going to be people who were homeschooled and had a terrible experience. I see that online a lot of people saying, well, I was homeschooled and I would never do that to my kids. It's great to hear all different experiences and opinions on it. So that's what mine is today. I'm going to share my positive experience being homeschooled so that maybe if you're on the fence, you can at least hear the good things about it and take that into consideration. So to give you an overview of what my life looked like being homeschooled, my parents started homeschooling me right from the get-go. I'm the oldest of 6, so this was kind of new territory for them. I had severe separation anxiety. I was so scared to go to school, and I still remember that feeling of being separated from my mom. And luckily, she was wise enough to say, you know what? This is terrifying for her. This isn't just a bad behavior. This is something innate. She's just not ready to go to school. So she decided to homeschool me, and that was kind of unheard of back in the 90s in Idaho. But she did it, and she tried to get me into social situations. My dad was a little bit more worried about it. He was still on board, but he was worried about the social aspects. So I did homeschool PE at the local rec center. I did lots of other groups, like just play groups with other homeschooled kids. There were a few, not as many as there are now. But I remember going to the homeschool PE class, and my gym teacher had a beard. He was a young man with a beard, and it terrified me. And I remember hiding in the bathroom while my mom was taking care of my brothers at another part of the rec center. I went and hid, and they couldn't find me, and they just thought, well, maybe she's in the bathroom. So my mom went and found me. That's just to give you an example of how terrified I was of social situations. That is not the case now. But my mom could see that I needed more time to develop a secure attachment to her, and she just knew that I would go out and be social when it felt right for me. And I am forever grateful to her for that, because I did come to a point where I wanted to socialize. I love socializing, and I'm not scared to get in front of people and do public speaking, do my podcast, and speak to people I haven't ever met before. So she knew I just needed more time. And that's what started them homeschooling. She also felt like my family is religious, a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And they just felt like kids needed more time to develop their character, their idea of morality, and to have some more time with their family before going out into the world, before the age of accountability at 8 years old. So she just felt like she wanted me to be home, her to be the primary influence until 8, and then that's when I was going to go to school. But when that time came around, I didn't want to. I loved being homeschooled, and my mom loved it as well. So she kept doing it, and she homeschooled my brothers. My 2 younger brothers were homeschooled, and then we moved to a farm with 17 acres, and we would do about an hour or 2 of school, and then we'd go out and play. We played most of the day. We also helped my dad with the animals, feeding them, watering, garden. There was a lot of work to do on the farm, so we helped him with that. But the majority of our time was spent playing. I remember making a little vet clinic for our animals down in our basement, and I made little cages for them. I went to the library and I read lots of books about animal care, and I convinced my mom to buy all these things. Like, I remember brewer's yeast. That was like a supplement for animals, and herbs and all these things to help take care of our sick animals. And I typed it all out. I typed out all the recipes. I typed out all the care instructions. Then I learned how to look on the internet back when that was a new thing. And I made this book, this animal care vet book for my vet clinic. And that was what we spent our time doing, working on projects and playing with each other, going out in the fields, going on adventures. And so just a very small part of our time was spent on school. In fact, I remember we needed to finish, I believe it was 80% of our schoolwork for our online school. And I don't think there was one year that we got to 80% complete. My mom's probably going to die hearing me tell the world this, but we probably got 50 to 60% of our curriculum done each year. And surprisingly, when we did state testing, we always got proficient or advanced in our state testing, which is just a testament that you don't need to spend as much time as you think you do to get a good education every day. Kids can really play the majority of their day and still get a lot of learning done. We still played a few times a week with kids from our church after school. We did scouts, we did music lessons, we did 4-H. We did all of those things, plus playing all day in the summer. I remember riding my bike down our rural road in the summer almost every day to play with my friends. So when I hit puberty, I really wanted to go and meet other kids. Beyond just my friends at church and 4-H and things, I wanted everyday experiences in middle school, which was a terrible time to go, but it's what happens. That's when I went. And so in 8th grade, I started attending the middle school just for 2 classes, choir and art. And I really loved it. It was different. It was just a different experience than being at home with my brothers or playing with friends or being at church. But it was good for me to go, and I'm glad that I went at that time, even though it was hard to start public school in middle school. So then I continued that until the end of high school. I went 2 to 3 periods a day. And then I graduated through K-12, which is a public charter school. I did all of my online classes. I really just wanted to go to college. I loved being home, and I had a great relationship with my parents and my siblings, but I was just ready to get out in the world. I was so excited to get my own apartment and to start a job. So I graduated early. I only spent about 3 hours a day doing high school classes online total. That was everything. And so I just decided I'm going to take extra classes for my junior year and graduate early. And so that's what I did. So I went to college at 17, loved it. I had multiple jobs during college. I paid for my college education, and I just had a great time. I got along well with my roommates, and it really wasn't that big of a deal as people said it would. My mom had a lot of things told her that her kids were not going to be able to function in society because they wouldn't be able to socialize well enough, or maybe they wouldn't do well in college because they had never gone to full-time classes at high school. And for our family, none of that came true. My brothers actually went to full-time high school because it was just a better environment for them personally. They needed that structure and accountability every day. So they went full time. Me, I just needed 2 hours a day, and that was good for me. And so in college, we all thrived. We all did very well, especially if you think about when you're homeschooled, you have to be self-motivated. I had my own little schedule starting from, was it 4th or 5th grade? I would schedule out which assignments were due and break down what I needed to do for each assignment. And I started from a young age being able to take care of that all myself and being self-motivated. For my brothers, it was a lot later for them, not till high school or college that they were able to do that. So high school was a really good thing for them. So in college, it was a very easy transition for me. I already knew how to schedule my time and my classes and my assignments because I'd been doing that since I was 10 years old. And I loved it. I did well. I graduated from Brigham Young University with a GPA of 3.75. So it went well. There were none of the things that people told my mom would happen actually did happen. And I want to make it clear again that I'm not saying none of those things happen to other homeschoolers. There are going to be some issues with homeschooling. The key is to know what the possible problems are that may arise with homeschooling and to just face them head on and find solutions to them. And I feel like my parents did that super well. They knew exactly what they needed to do as far as let's make sure they get out to the park and play with kids and learn how to introduce themselves and learn good social skills like talking to another person and asking them about themselves, and also just being kind and considerate to everyone around you. So that is an overview of my educational experience. Now I'll address some of the concerns that people brought up when my mom began homeschooling. One was that they will have bad social skills. That did not come true for my family. And one thing I've noticed with socialization and homeschooling is that socialization really comes from the parents. The social skills and the values that parents instill in their kids in home is really what's going to determine if the child is weird or if they're not weird. And my parents, I feel like, were very normal social people, and so me and my siblings were normal and social. And I can tell you that I have been around a lot of homeschooled kids between being homeschooled myself and my kids. And what I noticed being homeschooled is that there are a lot of weird homeschool kids. There are a lot of cool homeschooled kids. There are a lot of weird public school kids and a lot of really well-socialized public school kids. Like I said, it comes down to the parents. And also, I guess, who they hang out with at school as well makes a big difference. Who are their friend group and what are their parents like? So the thought that homeschooled kids will automatically be weird is not true. It depends on the parents. And so as homeschooling parents, there's a lot you can do to instill good social skills. One thing that my parents did that I will be forever grateful for is reading How to Win Friends and Influence People. My dad loves that book. It's one of his favorites. And he had us do family home evenings, and we would read a chapter of this book, and then he would give us an assignment. And one of the assignments was to go introduce ourselves, look the child in the eye, and then ask them questions about them. Then we were to report back to my dad, tell him what we learned about our new friend. So we went through that whole book, and he gave us assignments, and I feel like that helped us a lot, both in when my brothers served missions for our church, as well as interviews. I feel like I was so well prepared for interviews, as well as just socializing with people at work. And also, I was a receptionist for multiple companies while I was in college, and I feel like all those things my dad taught me and my mom served me very well. Another thing that was really important that I learned at home was to be kind and considerate and compassionate to everyone around you. That was one thing I noticed when I went to public school, was that there were cliques. And I just socialized with everyone. Anyone I sat next to at class, I would ask them, "What's your name?" and all about themselves, and just get to know them, genuinely interested in them. And what was interesting was I only went to 2 to 3 periods of high school, and I was voted in homecoming court because I was well known and I was well liked, because I felt like it was so important to be kind and friendly to everyone, no matter what. And that was one thing that I felt I learned at home. And maybe I could have learned that at school. I don't know. I'll never know if I would have been the same way if I went to public school. But I did feel like going straight into school in 8th grade, I had learned and had a good foundation of everyone is a child of God. Everyone has an interesting story, and everyone is worthy of getting to know. As far as the academics, I mentioned that we rarely finished our online school curriculum, but we still did very well on state testing. We read a lot, we played a lot, and I think that had so much more to do with our success later in life than whether or not we finished a curriculum. And that is because we learned self-education, as Charlotte Mason would say. We had so much time to pursue our interests and our hobbies, and we gained passions, things that we were so interested in. My brother, he would spend hours taking apart old appliances and helped my dad fix the tractor and the lawnmower. And now he has his own business doing 3D printing. And then my other brother, he has a passion for reading and is a lot like my dad, where he loves socializing and interpersonal communication with other people. And he does great at his job in that way. And for me, I learned how to ask questions and find answers through research and experimentation, and then learning how to write. One of my big things was my mom would have me write in my journal or record things that I learned when I was a kid. It was about animals. And I learned more how to learn in that way than I would have ever learned in long classes for 7 hours a day. So as far as academics, we did just fine. But I think that the thing that served us the best was that we had time to practice learning and researching and pursuing our interests. When I got to college, I thought, I am going to have so many gaps. At the beginning, I talked to my English professor and I just said, I'm kind of nervous. I was homeschooled and I know I'm going to have gaps in grammar and maybe in writing. And she's like, well, we'll just see. I'll help you with that if you need any extra teaching or tutoring. And halfway through the semester, she said, you are doing much better than most of the kids in the class. And she said, I think you have excellent grammar and a knowledge of the English language, and you are doing very well writing. And that really made me feel so much better about my experience being educated at home, because I felt like, oh, I'm going to have so many gaps. I had a little bit of I was self-conscious about it. And it turns out I didn't really need to be. There are many ways of learning grammar, and one of those is one of the best ways is reading, which I did a lot of, and writing in my journal. And that, in a nutshell, is my experience being homeschooled and surviving that experience. And not only surviving, but thriving. If you have any questions for me, please leave them in the comments below. And if you like this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe.